Okay, so you have just created this chart showing the case rate in Anne Arundel County with one bar for each month in Anne Arundel County between March and August. So we started with the Anne Arundel County data frame, and then using the tidyverse pipe, we said to draw a ggplot graph and then put bars on it with the case rate values. So I just want to walk through what's happening each of those steps. So we start with Anne Arundel, and then we draw a ggplot chart. Inside of it is this function called AES, which is short for aesthetic. And what we're doing here is we're telling it which columns from our data frame we want to put on the x-axis or the y-axis. So we're putting the month column on the x-axis and the case rate on the y-axis. So month on the x-axis, case rate on the y-axis. And we can actually see that if I just highlight this part of the function here and run that, what we have is an empty ggplot chart. So, you can see all the values from the Anne Arundel data frame. We have the month, March, April, May, June, July, August on the x-axis, and we have the range of the case rate from 0 to 15 on the y-axis. So if we look here, the case rate spans from 0 to 15. The month starts in March and ends in August. That's what we have on the axis here. But we don't actually have any bars representing the data. So if we were to only run this much of the function, we would get sort of a blank canvas that has some of the information from our data frame, but not anything specified. So to draw the chart, we need to use another function called geombar. There are lots of geom functions that are part of ggplot. Geomline draws a line chart. Geompoint will draw scatter plots. All kinds of things that we can visualize here. Lots of different ways of visualizing data. So what stat equals identity, it basically means pull the value out of the column on our y-axis. In this case, it's the case rate, and visualize that. So when I run this whole thing, that's why it creates bars. How do we size the bars? Well, we size them according to the value that came out of the y-axis. So that's how we draw a basic chart. One other point here, which is ggplot is part of the tidyverse, and so it works really well with things that are part of the core tidyverse, including the pipe, which means and then. One sort of challenging thing that a lot of people who work with this notice is that after the and then pipe, when we're using ggplot, is a little bit different than the and then pipe when we are just using other parts of the tidyverse, which is to say it's a plus sign. So it works in the same way. We iteratively build up these functions. We create a blank chart canvas. We add some bars. But when we're working specifically with ggplot functions, we tend to use the plus sign. And so we'll see that as we move below. Okay, let's continue with the lab.